Okay, so welcome back everybody to the fourth and final session of the Brailler maintenance slash cleaning series that we've been having our fabulous presenters do for us. Um, I think really what you all want from me right now is the opening code, right? So our opening code is clean. Clean. I'll type it in the chat. And I'm assuming everyone who's here has been participating all along, but just so you know, we do have closed captioning. You can click on that CC button in your Zoom menu bar to turn those on, and to type in the chat, click on that icon in your menu bar and just go ahead and type in there.
I can run there. Where's the one here? Close.
All right, so I think that's it for me, so go ahead.
Oh, hi. Okay. My name's Carl Jacobson. This is
Tim Puck.
We're back again for the fourth and final installment of the Keep Your
Brailler Clean during COVID-19.
That was Andrea's doing. She came up with that one. She's so snazzy with that. So obviously, I hope your braillers don't look like what's on your screen. I decided to get a little froggy and take apart the brailler in case we wanted to examine any parts a little closer. We also have plenty of open braillers we can bring back on the table if need be. So today is your day in the sense that we want to hear from you all, questions. So please raise your hand, and Miss Liz can go ahead and tell us, unmute or, tell us who we're talking to, and we'll try to answer all your questions. But we did get a couple that came in before, so we'll go ahead and address those. So let's start with our first question.
So the first one, we went over this last week, and we've kind of discussed these a few times, but with the brailler part like this, we'll be able to actually pick up and physically show you these pieces. So the first one was a list of the stick wax places. And so counting, we actually counted that there's 9. So there's not an even number, because one of them on the front plate or on the front assembly where you see Carl there, we would put stick wax right here because that's a small nut. But then this is where that awkward shaped the chain check would go. And we do not suggest putting stick wax there for the purpose of, yes, it will hold the chain check there. But if that grime starts getting in that gear that's directly behind it, everything will start to be gummed up, and your brailler more than likely will start to die a slow death.
Right. So yeah, when the brailler's facing you, that we got the brailler open, the front assembly where the keys are, just the left nut is where you're going to put the stick wax. So if we were demonstrating that, we could pull out the left nut here, and then Mr. Tim is going to, or I can, take a little bit. You can use anything handy. And he puts it on the nut. That's fine too. You can actually put it on the nut, or you can actually put it in the void located on the left-hand side of there. And then you just shove it back in, wipe off any excess, and you're good to go. So that's one. The other 8 places, if you see, we have the side plates. And so when we, again, with the side plates or the brailler facing us, we have one on the left and right, in the top left and right, back left and right, and then the 2 screws on the back plate. If we flip it, you can see that there. Most of the braillers, the bottom nut on the back plate will be hidden by the back assembly. So you probably won't be able to get to those. And but on some newer versions, you can pull those out. So it's up to you depending on the type of brailler you have. Did that answer the 9 points of where the stick wax needs to go?
And I don't remember the person who had emailed that, so I don't know if they're here or not.
Okay.
The next one was the specific places for lubrication.
Okay. So do you want me to get an actual, like...
Yeah, we're gonna get a real brailler out here, or one that's put together, not a real one. just because it may be more confusing to try and have us explain while we're trying to show you parts that you may and more than likely won't see a brailler taken down to this extent. And so on our brailler that is in front of Carl, we'll start with, again, that front assembly where your keys are. So using the gray arrow grease. Let me get my camera angle here. The gray arrow grease. That is going to go, this is solely for our keys. So right where those, you press the keys down and go in those channels, and then it will go over the top of these bearings. You want to get the snake cam out? Sure, this part. And so we'll also get our smaller snake cam out as well to give a better idea instead of our macro view here. So again, we have the channels above the key. And then we have above these bearings or these little rollers here. And again, small dabs. I know 2 weeks ago when I did and I accidentally was like, and like did half a tube when I said to be careful, but a little goes a long way. And then the other place that we would put the same arrow lube is underneath. I think we looked it up. It's called the trunnion, but this wheel right here. So again, if you get a brailler and this one's got brush and hair in it. Thank you, Snake Cam. But it should be free rolling like this. If it's not, it needs to be scrubbed, everything else. And again, that same thing, I usually leave mine about right there. And then I do that small pin-sized drop right where that wheel meets this little ridge, because this piece right here is actually your space bar. So if that's gummy and that's not rolling, your space bar is not going to work properly.
So it's going to get a lot of work. Every time those keys are pressed down, it'll move. Every time the space bar on both sides. Okay, you'll see that. So the keys and the trunnions get a lot of work. I mean, that's kind of where the action's at. It's when the mechanical force that you place down on these keys, this is where it transitions to the rest of the braille. Okay.
And then
so that's the arrow lube.
And that's the arrow lube. And then for the braille oil, that will be used in the main spring. So in this little hole right here, you can take your brush or our brush, or some of them do come in, if you have it, the kits will come in these little squeeze bottles, but be mindful that this stuff will leak everywhere and will sit there, and a lot goes a long way. And so in doing that, if you're using a bottle, be very, a little goes, what did I say?
A lot goes a long way.
A lot, yeah, a little goes a long way. Thank you, Carl.
No problem. Okay.
But with the brush here, we would go through and just, you can dab it into there. And as the brailler is going to be used, that spring's going to tighten, it's going to loosen, and then it will continually work itself in.
And you'll notice too, when you put that dab there, as I move the actual brailler side to side, the embossing head. So go ahead and put a dab in there and we can watch this work. So he puts a dab in, but as you move, it begins to compress the spring, and we move it back, it goes back. So over time, it'll slowly begin. You may see it there for a long time, but it'll start to work inside that spring. So that's one place for the for braille oil. The other places are on either side of the carriage tube. And the reason we put it either side is because we want it equally distributed. So I put a little dab on the left, and I put a little dab on the right. And then we just go ahead and work the embossing head left and right to distribute that multiple times. There are videos that Perkins puts out where you can tilt the brailler on its side, add a dab, and then watch it travel all the way down and work the brailler up and back and forth that way too. Either way is fine. I would start again with braille oil and any of the lubrications. Start with a little, work it in, test it out, work it in, test it out. And if you're still feeling some friction and it's not as smooth as you like, then go ahead and add a little more, but a little bit at a time. So you don't need to add very much. So
then the next area is if we turn the brailler back, the back of it towards you, so all the track and all these long cams are facing you, is another place where we put those. And again, you can dab it in, you can dab a couple around, you can do a little swishy guy, because then you want to come back through and run your finger, run one of those cotton swabs if you have them, and go through here and just make sure the braille oil is spread into there. Because if you think, the carriage needs to ride on there. And so when this carriage is getting stuck, or if it's not lubricated properly, it's going to go through and it's just going to it could stick. And so this lubrication allows for the bottom of these styluses that are housed in this carriage to smoothly run along here. So when this gets dry, it starts to collect dust and everything else, where at the same time, we want that lube to also go into these cams as well.
Okay. And that's, those are the places we do, and the place that Perkins recommends now. If some of you have older manuals, there are additional places to lubricate, but they've realized that less is best. And as this machine, what they found, I think they've put like these kinds of cams inside, this oil begins to kind of spray in its own way, all the different parts as the machine begins to work. And so when they added additional parts or places to lubricate, which were even up here, some of the connection parts of the link pins and stuff like that, it just was too much, and it ended up dripping down on the bottom of the cardboard bottom plate. So, and
you'll know you over lubricated if you put it all back together and your paper is being sprayed, like Carl said. And so, because we've both done it where we've been like, what is wrong with the paper? And then realized we were just trying to get something to work smoothly or something like that. And your paper is being sprayed with all the braille oil that you put in there. So that would be a sign that you probably over lubricated.
It's not that big, just you wipe it off, start over again. So don't feel like you've ruined it from that perspective. So we're good with this cam?
We're gonna keep that cam because the last question that was submitted ahead of time was somebody wanted the main cleaning points.
I would say starting with your lubrication points, start there. Clean the areas where you've put your lubrication. So the back assembly here, let me flip the barrel around. The tube, the keys, and then start on the side plates at that point. Any of the areas down in here where springs need to be cleaned, but be careful and gentle with them because you want to avoid popping them off. Anywhere there's gears, we want to get in there and clean as well. Any type of lever, any connecting points, really want to get in there and clean with the rubbing alcohol. You can see on the left side, another cam, for the line space, that gets really gummed up and it needs to be cleaned. You also too, if you find your paper is not catching or it's difficult to roll in, sometimes the rubber roller will pick up a lot of lint. So it's okay to take a little alcohol on a pad and move it side to side, turn it a little bit, move it side to side, turn it a little bit, and make sure you clean all 360 degrees around the rubber tube to ensure that it's actual rubber. If you still feel slipping after that, that could be something, or if sometimes there's tears and rips in the rubber, you may want to send it out to a technician to get that serviced and replaced.
And also another place to clean is, we talk about that colored sandpaper, which is another part of if your paper is not catching. So it kind of sounds counterintuitive to put alcohol in this, but if you have a really good high grade alcohol and then brush it out, scrub it and dry it, it does wonders with making sure that
the drum grips the paper.
The drum grips the paper properly.
Okay.
Underneath.
Oh yeah. And then when you flip the brailler upside down, again, those trunnion points, again, where we put lubrication, we want to clean that. Sometimes you can see right here, I don't know if it's picking up, there's a hair or something connected. This was originally one of the points where they did add oil. And so you're going to want to clear that out. Again, another connecting point on the front and back, just with one key. We need to clean those and brush that out. If you move your embossing head to the center of your brailler, you'll see the pawl underneath of the stylus. And it connects with the rack teeth, you're going to want to clean that too. You can see if I depress that, there's some grime on the tooth there. Tim, you want to just wipe that with your finger?
Mm-hmm.
And so now you can see it's gone. So, and it's on his finger. So we want to keep that clean as well. No lubricant is needed there, just lots of alcohol to flush that out, keep it clean.
And when you are cleaning around these keys that have these small little link pins in them, be very cautious, because these don't just like ever just nicely fall out. If you're cleaning it and you hit this the wrong way, it will fly. And it's about the size of a half a grain of rice.
Actually, there's one in the back, your left rear.
Oh,
There's
I
one
see
there.
it.
And we'll show you how small it is.
Get it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a big one.
Yeah,
There's actually smaller ones. That's for the spacebar one. There's a smaller one in there. And you can see Mr. Tim's hand. So they're really tiny, and they're not really shiny once they've got grease and grime on them and stuff. So they like to blend into things.
And then the second point I wanted to make sure we made, that if you are cleaning this pawl and you're near this rack bar is sharp. So I've been like not paying attention or trying to go fast, and I've been like using one of our big heavy duty, like our green brushes like this, and have used this, and I've been in there scrubbing, and I've caught my knuckles and I've ran it straight across there. So just be cautious, because it doesn't feel the best, and you don't feel it right away, and then all of a sudden you do feel it.
Yeah, I mean, here's one. If you take it out, removed, I mean, you can see it's just kind of like a dull saw blade. So it's not pretty.
That's the one you chose?
Sorry.
Look at my look.
You're fixing Braillers, man. You got to get dirty. Yeah. All right. Any more of the snake cam, or you want to move?
I think those are all the three that were submitted.
Okay.
So we can get this out of the way. And I do see there are a couple people in the chat box. So
Yeah.
Liz,
And
if you want to.
Yeah, and I had some other emails that maybe I don't know, maybe we didn't
Yeah,
send
please.
them to you.
Yes, those are the three that I was able to find.
Yeah.
So please let us know what else we missed.
Okay. So I think you kind of addressed this maybe, but Mary Klein was saying that with the paper, so she had taken the plates off of her Brailler and put them back on, and then she had a hard time getting a sheet of paper to go into the Brailler. Like there isn't enough space to fit the paper in. So is there something that could maybe be out of whack that would be keeping the paper from going in nicely?
So you're saying the paper is too big for the Brailler? Is that what she's saying?
Yeah, like it just won't go into the Brailler.
That's not what I'm saying.
Oh,
Am
okay.
I on?
You are,
here?
Mary, yes.
What I'm saying is that rod at the top, right underneath there, is a piece of aluminum that the paper has to fit underneath so that it feeds into that little piece in the back that closes and holds it and then pulls it around.
Right.
And it was like out of line or pushed down or something, and I could not get a piece of paper to feed back underneath that successfully so that I could get it into that little thing and then wind it. What I ended up doing was taking all of the plates off, because I thought that maybe in over tightening it, maybe I did something wrong. And then I fed paper in like you had showed the first time. And it did seem to work. And then I put my plates back on. But in the future, I was wondering if it seemed to me that maybe when I turned the machine upside down, maybe I had somehow pushed something down that closed that space a little bit and made it difficult for the paper to fit in.
Yeah, a couple things.
Is that clear?
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. A couple things. What I have in my hands here, I'm drawing a blank on the name here, but
that's the piece. That is it.
Yep. Okay. So this can get bent. So I had to tell a teacher with about close to 35 years of experience. She grabbed the piece of paper and just went and ripped it out, and I was like mortified. And what that does is it can literally pull and put pressure on that. And I don't know if you guys can see, there's a little tab that metal piece just kind of flaps in the breeze on both sides. It's strong, but it's not that strong. And so this can get bent with use is what I'm trying to say. So you could need to replace this. Sometimes there's pins that go on either side of the side plate that this rests in, the lever and that metal piece where you talk about with the O-rings, that can actually get loose and then just kind of rest there. You may not know that it's loose. And that could be an issue. I've seen these things still work when they're just kind of resting there and hanging out. So my advice to you, probably, if you got it to work once, great, maybe even twice. But if you notice that this happens again, I'd probably send it off to a technician, because if it ever got bumped, and it doesn't take much, you're only talking about, it's not even a quarter, I mean, 1/8 of an inch there that's holding on both sides. That holds this in place. And if it gets bumped or the frame gets loose, it could then just kind of rest off to the side and be out of alignment, like you said.
Okay.
So, and it could be
All
the
right.
springs too. Check your springs to make sure. Remember, we talked about for lack of a better term, the long fishhook spring that came up from the bottom, that
Right.
you'll see them on the side plates, and they
Right.
go into the tiny hole. If those aren't connected, or if they're not, maybe they're beginning to fail, that could also cause this plate to be in the upward position, which then catches the paper sometimes. So,
Okay. Thank
does
you.
that help answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes. Basically, if I can't get it to work again, I'll send it off to be fixed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what also could have possibly happened, we can only speak to like what we're assuming, is that when the plates were taken off, it could have been working perfectly with the plates on it. But by taking the plates off, some pressure may have been released, and it could have, like Carl said, it could have fallen out of whack, or something could have changed or hindered that function.
Right.
And that's what happens a lot of times with these machines, is we have them buttoned up, they're so tight, they're ready to go. But then once you start to loosen things up, it kind of goes, ugh,
Right.
and then everything gets out of whack.
Yeah.
And I don't want, and for those that have been with us for a long time, and are new to this, I don't think I've ever said this, but don't feel bad by taking the plates off and cleaning it and putting the oil on and something else arises, because what it's telling you, and it's that system was about to fail anyway. So all you did was expedite that, which I think in some respect can be a good thing, in that the Brailler, less damage can happen to it, because now you know something's wrong, you can send it off, and the cost is not going to be as much as it would be if an entire part were to fail, versus just need to be reset, retightened up. These Brailles, the Brailler machines, there's a lot of play in this, how it was designed. And so all of that needs to be working. And if, one screw on the back frame is off, it could cause this whole piece to pop out. So don't beat yourself up. And I hope you don't think badly of us for telling you to clean your Braillers, and more things are wrong, but it happens. And so, but I think being able to take them apart and keep them lubricated and cleaned, or cleaned and lubricated, is a good thing, because you'll find out more things to it, rather than it just sitting there and collecting dust in a closet somewhere. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bless you.
So while we're on that same part that's right in front of you there,
Oh.
Miriam had a question about those O-rings. So on her Brailler, one of the O-rings is missing and all of the rest of them feel dry. I guess there was maybe a question on replacing these last week. So she was curious, so they cost 15 cents each, and if those can be replaced herself, or if that's something that has to be done professionally.
My first thought, again, erring on the side of caution, would be to replace professionally, because you have to remove this piece from the top of your Brailler,
which involves removing the screws and springs from the bottom of the Brailler.
Correct. And then you have to remove 2 set screws on the side plate. And then there's a combination of the other about 6 to 8 other parts that all need to be put in at the same time. And you have about a 1/16 of an inch to work with putting this in. I will say Perkins did. So the two O-rings on either side never make contact with the paper. So if you have one that's broken in the middle and your other rings are salvageable, you can then slowly with your finger and move them. I don't know if I can do it in the air like this, but essentially, I don't know if you can see that, it's off the groove. So you can work them to any side of the brailler you wish. So if you still have, most of them are good, move the good ones towards the middle of the rod, and you don't need these two on the end. Their thought is that these will start to wear down, and then you can push one over. What we find though, like you said, once one is broken, the others are probably going to go because they get dry and brittle, and they're all made from the same time, same cut of extrusion of rubber, and so they have a shelf life.
So
they start to break.
yeah, and that's what I wanted to add in too, was that if you start rolling them in and you either don't recognize or you do see that and you're kind of just like going, I'm gonna try it, and chances are they will snap. It wasn't until within the last year actually that Perkins changed how they were making the O-rings. And so now I would say now they fit.
Yeah.
Before they were extremely tight. So depending upon last time your brailler was serviced and by who and what part stock they had for their O-rings. We just finished a bag of like 300 of really tight ones. And then we got the new ones because we normally have a ground down pencil that we stick in the end of this, in the end of the roller, and then roll the rings over the top of it because it was that stiff.
They were that tight.
And so now with these new ones, you really don't need that anymore. And you can actually feed multiple ones on at once.
And I think they're lasting a lot longer. So, for those that have cracked ones, it's not that much, you're going to pay a service fee to get in there and work on this. And this could be a repair we could teach down the road for sure. And I'm just sorry that we weren't able to cover it in these sessions.
And as Carl said too, this assembly has washers and wing nuts and everything else. But now beyond this, we have a little jig that we ourselves made, because now this spot here, let me find the camera, Carl. This spot here, and Carl's get the snake cam out because now we still have to take this assembly apart even further.
So it's a compression fitting. If you imagine like a dovetail, so there's a rod in here that the actual silver sleeve and the O-rings rest on, and these wings pop off on both sides. You don't need to pop them both off, just one. It's difficult. I've broken this part sometimes as well. Sometimes corrosion can get in there, and you can see two different types of metal that come through, and there's a half collar of the wing that fits on the outside of the internal rod. So essentially, this is it removed, and you pop off these I just shot one, whatever that. And then you slide them back on, but you got to go all the way down the tube, and then it gets stuck on the shaft, and then the wings get compressed on both sides. And by the way, you have to insert the flappy part of metal, and it's got a groove in there that it all has to go in there at the same time. The Brailler's notorious for 3 to 4 systems that all have to be put together at the same time, and we only have 2 hands, so it can be a little difficult.
And with that, when putting it back together, like we keep saying, it is a flimsy aluminum. And so if you don't have everything lined up and you're hammering down on the end of that, you sit there and that little sleeve continues and starts to just like bend, and it will snap. And then you need a whole new aluminum plate because you just snapped one of the wings off of it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so Miriam is also curious as to why the rod was changed to the O-ring from the ridge roller, if you know the answer.
I didn't hear it.
So yeah, the older version of the Braillers, yeah, good question, were the ridged Braillers. Do we have an old? Okay. find a Brailler one, we'll show you. It came out of the 1970s when apparently a teaching style of labeling everything was very effective in, here, can you switch the cam, just go to, was very effective, and you can put Braille on 3x5 cards. Well, what they were finding is the 3x5 cards going into the, and what I have is the back of the Brailler here that I'm showing you, and you can see the ridged roller. 3x5 cards, when they put them in, had a tendency to slide and kind of jar to the left or right. And that was a complaint from some of the TVIs. So they found their answer was to put the O-rings on these. You can, they still make these. I have been tempted to order a lot of these and switch them out because I'm tired. At the time when we had the defective O-rings, it was a pain in the butt to switch out the O-rings. It's not that bad anymore once you get used to it. Yeah, it was just hearing from the field, and they wanted to switch. I personally have tried putting 3x5 cards in older versions and newer versions. Really didn't see a big difference to go ahead and make an entire design shift in the Brailler. But that was the explanation that was told to me when I asked the same question. Because I'm like, what the heck? Why would you have a part on there? It's perfectly fine, didn't fail ever, unless you were to bend it. And now, oh, by the way, when this goes, you can't load any paper in after a while. So
What I also feel the older style is also more sturdy.
Yeah.
Whereas this, and I already put the bare one, but this is just, it's a light aluminum tube. Whereas this is a solid piece of metal that, like Carl said, isn't going to fail unless you hit it with a ball peen hammer.
right.
Because even dropping it, you won't have that excess pressure. Granted, we don't want our students and clients to drop our Braillers.
And I thought it was nice because I think from a TVI perspective and kids, you know, it's essentially the width of a cell. And so it was easy for kids to orient along the rail there to figure where they are on the page and 5 cells in or whatever they need to do. But anywho.
Do you all, this is Anna Lee. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you all know why they had it ridged that way? Because I just learned about that a couple of years ago.
Why it was originally made this way?
Yeah.
Unless I'm telling you wrong, do you have an answer? I don't know. Other than...
Yes, I do. I found out they ridged it that way, and it is, you're right, that's the width of a cell, but they put it that way so if you had to roll the paper back in to correct anything, the ridges kept the roller, the metal rollers from smashing down the dots.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, because if you notice, and you probably have all seen this, you braille something, take it out and go, oh shoot, I need to add something. You put it back in, it's really hard to line it back up. So, so yeah, I like the old style. I hope they go back to it someday. But
yeah, usually it's better before you take the paper out to fix the errors. But if you got everything lined up properly, it can go.
Well, I was teaching a kid how to do a checklist the other day, and like that idea of that. And so now I know we can scratch with our thumb and do that kind of stuff. But if they want to be a little organized and put it in, you can, full cell out different lines and different things like that. But I totally agree.
Yeah, so. I'm wondering with those O-rings, if the rollers where it's flat, where it could flatten out the dots. I don't know. I know the jumbo braillers don't have the ridges, if you notice, because it wouldn't line up properly with the jumbo dots.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's a conundrum to me why they make the changes. Obviously, there's probably a reason, or they've heard from the field. But yeah, and over the years, sometimes these designs and from Abrams Designs, the guy who basically invented this Brailler, there's been a large number of years in between the two of them. So I'm sure some information has gotten lost, and some of the original people that worked in the shop have probably since passed on as well. So, all right. Any more questions?
Yes.
Coming.
I'm gonna answer Jeannie's question. Do Braillers ship by Free Matter for the blind? And the answer to that is yes.
They do. But we've also run into I have a question. If anybody knows, please tell us too. Can you get insurance on items that have been shipped free matters for the blind? And well, I've gone in one day and they said yes, and the next day they said no. So it feels like every time I go in, I get a new answer. So
That's a good question. I'm gonna assume no, but I might look into that.
because we've had, things get banged up. It's a package. It's shipping along many different forums, plane if it's really far, or truck, or and by person too. Sometimes it's walk to the door. So things do get banged up, and I was just curious, what do you do if that happens? So
yeah, and that's one of the reasons we're if you're getting a Brailler repaired, it's nice to have it repaired at a location that's not across the country from you. So it's not having to travel so far and be subjected to so much.
absolutely.
And Miriam is saying she has been able to get insurance on free matter for the interesting. All right.
Cool.
It's gotta be on the USPS website somewhere. So I would imagine if we find that and you print it out and you take it with you and you show that to that USPS employee. Okay. And there was a question from Wayne. How often do you recommend maintaining the Brailler with daily use?
Say that one more time.
How often do you recommend maintaining the Brailler with daily use?
With daily use, I would, at the very least, maybe 3 years. I've seen Braillers go longer, but on a yearly basis would probably be a good schedule. Of, at the end of the year, May, June, pull your Braillers off, clean them. If you're seeing some wear or something is amiss, you can ship it off and have plenty of time to get it back into service when the kids come back. That's from an educational standpoint. That's kind of my framework. We have seen some where we've, worked on them, maybe missed something, or it got dropped and they've come back in within 6 months. So, but generally our Braillers, we do see repeat customers on a annual basis. I will say this is just a mild observation. I feel like there are certain, like math classes, you get a lot more quick side to side action. So sometimes the chain needs to be adjusted and the backspace needs to be cleaned a little better down in this area on the right hand side of the area from the front plate front assembly and the chain in that area, just because this thing's moving left and right with formatting issues and things like that. In your language arts classes, we're getting a lot of O-rings and things like that because the papers, they're using large amounts of the paper. But again, this is just a Carlism observation, so nothing too definitive there. But I would say annually, probably be a good way to service and clean them.
And it's probably also, it's with this machine and how we do keep saying like one system affects another system and they all intertwine everything. This is kind of a machine, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure, like obviously like lubrication and everything else, but some important lubrication points you can actually still do with most of the plates on.
Yeah.
And so if you feel it getting really sluggish and the carriage is slowing down, you can actually just take the top plate off without taking anything off, drop a little Braille oil on your carriage tube and just run it back and forth. And so it's when you start messing and trying to tinker with a Brailler where you're going to find everything is wrong with it. And so, yes, I totally agree with Carl. Like that annual basis, we wish that we could do that here at FSDB, definitely, because this is where our giant Brailler shop and we're running through everything. But it takes so much. All these Braillers take so much good abuse because they're being used. But it's that cycle. If you can go through and clean it and lubricate it once a year, it's going to last longer.
And use it too. I mean, if you see a Brailler has been used in a couple of weeks, maybe, I don't know how the schedules are with your students and things like that, but get in there, hammer out a couple lines of Braille, move the head left and right to make sure that lubrication is continually dispersed within the Brailler. That's helpful too. So if that, rather than them just sitting for 2 to 3 months in the summertime, work on them and keep them moving. They like the exercise.
So basically we're talking about like a car here. You don't want to let it sit too long, but don't, go looking too deep.
Every 3,000 characters.
I did get an email from Sue. So she's saying that on her Brailler, it sounds like the carriage lever is scraping when she put the top plate on. It moves fine and smoothly until she put the top plate on. So what could be causing that?
So was that the front plate?
Yeah, the
okay,
top
yeah.
plate, the top plate.
Oh, the top plate.
Yeah. And it works now. I have it apart again, but now all of a sudden my carriage won't roll.
Which plate
The
on
one with the handle on it.
the one on the handle?
Yeah, it was working fine until I put it on there and it sounds like a scraping noise.
It,
Is her, this is that.
that would be the front plate.
Well,
So sometimes, yeah, what happens, there's the part that your chain connects to the, it's like stuck. Oh, there. Right here, connects to the, and you'll see it right underneath the stem that sticks out of the, if you got your lever off, the stem that sticks out of the
carriage.
Yeah.
carriage, thank you. What can happen here, that little piece of metal, either the front plate can be bent and that'll run up against it and you'll hear kind of a tinging left and right, or a certain part. Your top plate also, if it got bent somehow, could also be rubbing on there as well. Or if your lever wasn't pushed all the way onto that stem, like we talked about, remember that little pop? Take the screw out, readjust that, make sure that's seated well, because that could be, somehow interfering. Usually it's not the top plate though.
It's not the top plate. The top plate could also be bent. So if it was dropped, say if it was dropped maybe face down, or whoever was using it maybe pulled it towards them and missed, this little lip right here, that should be a very fairly straight edge. And so if this is not a straight edge, the underneath, that lever has a greater chance of rubbing on there.
Yeah.
And like Carl said, normally it's not the top plate. Normally you see this problem and
If you
hear
take
that rubbing
if
on
you take the
front
top plate off, do you still hear the sound?
No,
Wow.
just when I put the top plate on.
You kind of stumped. I'm
And I
stumped.
put it back together again. And I took the lever off and put it back on and everything. And I put it back together again. And now my roller won't roll. Completely. And that's a whole different can of worms.
Your roller won't roll.
Yeah, it won't roll in or out. It's just stuck. So
And your lever, will it catch in the back position? Will it stay up?
yeah.
Okay.
Is for.
I'm trying to listen to you roll it. I'm sorry.
Well, it's not rolling. It's just going click, click, click.
Well,
Huh.
the paper guide is engaged because you have to hold it if the top plate's off.
I
Is your
took it apart
is your
again because
paper guide?
She doesn't have her back plate on. So it won't roll because that's engaged.
Right.
Yeah.
I just
well,
want
I just took it apart to look at it to see if maybe I put something together wrong.
So is it moving now with the plates off or no?
No, it's not moving at all.
Okay, pull your lever back. Okay.
It's like towards me.
Yep. Is it moving?
Nope.
Okay, now flip it forward. Now roll it back.
Nope. Nothing. Stuck.
Okay, so yeah, what could happen is the intermediate gear could have gotten,
We can show 'em.
yeah, could have gotten bumped.
Right. I mean, it was
Um,
working before, like maybe
Yeah.
10 minutes before the class started, it was working and then it just stopped. And I didn't do
Yeah.
anything.
So that, and again, don't feel bad for cleaning your Brailler, but
Okay.
on the right plate, what that is a sign of is the intermediate gear. If
Uh-huh.
it's not, wasn't lined up properly, now that we've cleaned it, it now probably was able to move all the way. And so when the, hold it on the screen. Whoa.
Focus.
Focus. Anyway,
Yeah.
that right there is the intermediate gear. So that has to line up with the drum gear and the roller. And if it doesn't, that can cause that locking. And we found that too. You think it's at the right, when you press down on the, advance your line space all the way.
Yeah. It's there now.
Is there a lot of play in it or is it pretty stiff? Like when you push down, how far does it go down?
Maybe like a half an inch.
Yeah. So that means the intermediate gear, something bumped. It just jumped on you. And that happens with use. And it probably was there the whole time. But the fact that you cleaned and did all that, it exasperated the thing in a good way because that needs to be repaired because it's not going to grab that paper at the right moment. And you might start to see paper jamming and different things like that. So.
Okay.
So I'm sorry your Brailler's not working. I always feel bad. So we're at 4:45, so we got about 45 minutes left. We're halfway there. So just wanted to keep us on pace. Any questions? Other things we can try to help with?
I just wanted to let Millicent know that we have been recording all of these sessions. They're all on our YouTube channel. I don't know if we made that public yet, but it will be.
Yeah,
So
I've seen one or two sessions have already been up on your FIMC website.
Okay.
Or that link you guys have. So
yeah,
they usually come by Wednesday. I think they're uploaded usually.
Yeah, we try to do it pretty quickly, especially since you guys were watching the one for the coming week. But yeah, they're all going to be there. And I feel like there was another question. Oh, Miriam was just observing. It seems like the backspacer tends to break first. I don't know. Is that something that you've seen? Like that's the first thing to go?
They get gummy, and there's a I get this thing. Can you switch? Sorry. So again, this is the Brailler disassembled, and just to give you a better view. So normally this will be on. I'll give you perspective. It's on your right side, and it's where the mainspring is located. I have that off at this point. But if we were to look underneath the Brailler, you can see there's another pawl with a spring. That spring, because the backspace, if you've got, especially in math teachers that are all about, 4 spaces on the backspace or, getting that orientation rather than by feel, you're going to get a lot of wear on there. The spring can pop off. If the spring pops off, you don't have a backspace. If there's grime that gets in there, I don't know if it's a better view, but there. And I don't know if I can engage it. There we go. So you can see it's spring loaded there. If there's grime that gets behind this, it'll just kind of stay like that and won't catch the gear and advance your pawl. So we got to put it back down.
And that's when you'll sit there and jamming down on that backspace and it won't move.
Yeah.
And even with the spring on, if there's a little bit of grime there, that backspace will not function.
So yeah, another thing I thought of too, because these systems are connected, the chain is also relies heavily on this too. So if your chain needs to be replaced, or remember we talked about adjusting the tension on the chain and even the alignment with that dot, which is down here somewhere. We're probably just not lined up, but there we go. That dot had to be in the upward position. If any of that is off, that'll cause your backspace and the spacing on the Brailler to get funky on you. So again, I don't mean to always, like my default is send it off to a technician. Trust me, this isn't our we don't want to say that, but cleaning and lubricating does a lot, but it also helps us discover parts that we feel a little more informed about that. So
This is Anna Lee.
sure.
I have a question regarding the backspace now that you mentioned it. I have some brailers here from my work that were cleaned and lubricated, and I noticed one brailer, the backspace, if I let it sit and I push down on it the first time, there's none of that resistance that you get, I guess, because of the spring. But if I let it go down all the way, then somewhere it engages and then the backspace will work after that. Is that just an adjustment that needs to be made?
Yeah, that sounds like probably if it's functioning okay, you feel like the movement is there, it's done, doesn't feel like it's gummy or anything, and it comes back to the upright position.
Yeah, it functions after that, but that initial, when I let it sit at that initial press down on the backspace, it doesn't engage it, but then it will engage after that.
So that's probably a timing with the chain. It just needs the wheel and the dot on here needs to be moved to the left or right. And we do, like, I think I showed you guys that last class with adjusting. The chain connects here on the Brailler, on the embossing head itself, and then you move that chain left or right, and it's about, you're talking hairs to get it lined up. So now, do you have your back plate off when you test that?
No, nothing's off. Everything's together.
Okay, all right. So what you'll find when you take the back plate, the back plates off, or all the plates off, it won't want to line up because it's all too far over. The line space or the margin set on the back plate actually keeps the embossing head a little over on the left. I'm probably talking way too much about that. But anyway, test it out with the back plates on before you go fidgeting with all the adjustments, if that's a road you want to go down. So.
Yeah, because these were cleaned by a professional and
Okay. Yeah, I would say send it back to him and say, look, we're still having issues with the backspace. Hopefully it wasn't me. Just kidding. Send it back and say, look, I'm having issues with the backspace. Can you make sure it's still clean? And then possibly either adjust the chain or the timing as well. Because that may be causing that head to, you'll like push down and it'll go left and fall back to the original position. And you push down again, it'll finally catch and then make its cadence towards the left.
Yeah, it works fine after that, after the first initial.
Yep. Yeah, that chain just needs to be adjusted a little bit. It's like once you get the plates off, it's like a 2-second adjustment and you'll be off and ready. So.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And so I just put in the chat, I did actually find on the USPS website something about free matter for the blind, and it says, if I can find the wording here, oh my goodness, now I lost it. Hold on. But it was talking about insurance, and it says that a mailer may insure a postage-free item by paying only the required insurance fee. So there you have it. You can get insurance on your brailers.
You can get insurance on your brailers.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It's saying, because this whole document is relating to free matter for the blind.
Nice.
Yes. And I have the link to the YouTube playlist that this video will be added to, but I think Andrea will probably be emailing that to our participants as well.
No, thank you for that. That's really helpful.
Yeah. And so that's all the questions that I saw. So open it up.
There's 11 chats. Do we want to check in there?
How do we do that? Go there.
Or Liz can as well.
Is there, Liz, is there any other information that's showing up in the chat?
No, I've gone through that, and I think
Okay.
we've answered everything there. If there were any questions submitted in advance that we didn't get to, then
They're interested in it.
Okay. If nobody has any questions or you want to, we still got about a half.
I have a specific one. This is Angela.
Sure. Hi, Angela.
Last week when we were adjusting the tension on the chain, it sounded like when I was doing that the mainspring was like tensioning. I don't know what the word is. Like it was like unraveling.
Yep.
And now it's definitely like sluggish and I think that that's the issue. Is that something that can happen or what?
Yeah, so remember, if you noticed, I talked about it's important that you depress the backspace lever, and then I inserted the screwdriver in there. What that did is lock the mainspring in place so it doesn't unravel. And
Okay.
so when that, and I've had it slip on me too, and it'll go and start to make all kinds of fun noises.
Yeah.
So what happens is the mainspring there unraveled. You're gonna have to either take it to a technician, but they'll pull off the mainspring and check it, examine it, make sure it didn't break, because sometimes when that happens, weird things can happen inside there. And they'll re-put it on, they move the head over to the right, and then they adjust the appropriate tension on the spring.
Okay, that's what I figured. I just thought I would check.
Yeah, no. And then do we want to, if we're interested, I know there's a little lag in questions, but we were wondering if anybody wanted to see the actual inside of the stylus head here, what it looks like, and if you're interested, and we can, it's kind of the brains of the matter, makes the actual Braille itself. Does anybody want to see inside?
We have a yes, please.
Yes, please. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go over Tim's shoulder here. Sometimes these are tricky, for sure, to say the least. It's actually considered in the manual a minor repair, believe it or not. But what can happen is these screws can strip right off the bat. I have seen that happen.
And these screws, these first ones, are also the same screws. They actually hold in this top plate. So even with your carriage on the Brailler, there should be spring tension here.
Yeah.
And it's the reason I have this grip so tight, because if I don't, and if this is
It goes whoop.
semi-clean, it will go and pop straight off, and
So-
you will lose a lot of parts.
So there are two springs underneath that, for lack of a better term, that actually is the term, called the stripper plate. The springs are underneath there. And sometimes you'll also find they put spacers. This needs to be perfectly flat. If once Tim gets that done, he can hold that down, and I'll show you the pins that come through the stripper plate need to be flush with, hang on, I'm doing a bad job.
There we go.
Need to be flush with that surface. So I would probably look at it from that angle. And you can do that by, running your fingernail across there. If you guys are interested in getting a little more serious, let me try to level that out a little bit. Anyway, so just if you get into this, when this comes off, there can be little washers. So he's going to pull off these last two screws here.
So I'm also, especially when it comes to this assembly, very OCD. And so I will, and this is from my own machinery background and taking things apart, that I want every screw to go back in every single place that I took it from. And as we continuously state how finicky this machine can be, I feel it's beneficial for a peace of mind for myself. And so I will take one of our cloths here and I will place everything out in the order in which I took it. So now that all those screws are off, what's going to happen, especially when this is off the machine, this little roller is what runs on that back cam assembly. So this should be free rolling. So this is also another good cleaning point. And this is one that I honestly, if my carriage is real sluggish and I've lubricated, I've done everything, I'm like, what is wrong? I've gone back and you can already see the grime that's on this wheel. I've gone back and like, this thing's not moving. So this is another great point. And if you're really sloshing on the alcohol with those brushes, kind of like Carl likes to do, he always ends up getting this. And so this should be free rolling. And this one definitely, as you can see, needs to be cleaned. And then this plate and everything should just fall off. And there's a piece of, I mean, it's a paper, for the lack of a better
Tape.
term, but it's tape. And this actually does serve a specific purpose. This is a spacer for all these stylists and kind of a buffer so you don't have metal rubbing on metal. And because when this is on, it has that angle.
And they don't want, if something were to happen, that last pin closest to us to be rubbing on the inside of that metal plate. I'm not gonna lie, I put the plates on without it from time to time in my early days. I will say I don't own the tape personally. So we use other adhesive methods to put the old ones back on sometimes because it's extremely expensive. I think one roll on Amazon I found was like $70 for a roll. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
And it's a little roll.
It's, I mean, yeah, it's like Scotch tape. And I was like, oh my gosh. But apparently it can resist a lot of wear and heat, and it's like a mechanic's tape. But anyway, I don't even know the name of it. So yeah, we've talked to Perkins. You can actually order it specifically if you want, but it rarely comes off. So you can see he's removing the stripper plate now. Taking a look at that. Are there washers?
Yep,
Yeah, there are 2 washers on there. Fortunately, they've stayed, but I would actually, there's grime on there. I would clean that, which would probably knock them off. They're really thin. It's almost like, you know, yeah, you can see that there. I don't know how to explain it. Like hole punch washers that you'd see on the end of a paper to make it more rigid so it wouldn't fall off your 3-ring binder, that kind of thing. And then now there's also a, let's see, tweezer. There is a crossbar that kind of holds that in. It goes into the groove. He's going to pull that out. And it's tension fitted between, these are called straight springs. I don't know if you can hear that. They are put in there. They can bend. Actually, I've seen those bend really bad. You can replace these if need be. And then on the newer version, you're probably getting a glimpse on the top of the, let me come in.
That's right.
Just hold still. I got you. On the top of the actual pins, there is a little spring, and it's super tiny. There are 6 of them, but on the older versions, they do not have the springs there. So what he's going to do is remove each stylus pin out and reverse order, and you can see they turn certain ways. So not only are they in the right order, they're turned left or right depending on how the assembly is supposed to go in. In between each pin, he's removing a shim. And so he's very, very careful to keep and maintain his order of operation. So you can see this happens. I've knocked off my little napkin here or towel and lost them all. We do know the order. It's helpful to know that. That could be something we address down the way. But these shims can be out of order, the ones in the middle here. But you can see one stuck to one on the back of the other.
And I don't know if anybody noticed, but when Carl was explaining the level of all these shims and what they should look like, we actually had one of our stylists that I noticed was that was lower than the rest. And so this stylus that I just pulled out here, and sorry with my shaking, has no spring. Now pulling this apart, I found it. It had fallen off somehow in that little minute space and had ended up right there. And that
wasn't on it?
No.
Wow.
And that will affect that stylus depth into where, how deep and how big the dots are that are being created when the braille is being pressed. And that goes there. And that spring goes there.
So you can see he pulled them out from right to left. You can see one is pointed to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, with a shim in between each one, and then the springs need to be on each one of those. So you can see in between these shims, there's some grime. So if I were rubbing this with my finger, it was dark there. Now it's pretty light, and you can see the grime there. So you can get to it without taking this out and flushing it with tons of rubbing alcohol. And remember, I think we showed you the bottom of these, which were underneath that whole compartment, get pretty grimy. And so that's one way to clean it. But to really clean these out, you do need to take them apart. And these are the springs he removed underneath the stripper plate. They go into the housings, into the actual casting of the I cannot remember this today. Carriage. Thank you. And so that's, a naked carriage right there. They've got the alcove in there.
And this we keep talking about what runs on that back assembly, and get the brush in there and scrub, because Carl's been saying all day, but I'll definitely say it. Send it to a technician if you think that's what it is. Because if they have to do this, they have to take the machine way apart. So in order for us to get to the carriage to be able to take it off, it doesn't have to be as far as we have on the table here, but we do end up having to take the entire right plate off of the machine. And then we have to obviously disconnect this from the chain. And then we have to fight with the rack bar and everything else. And we kind of shimmy it up and out of the machine so we can get it into this. Now, sometimes if we know it's going to be a quicker fix, or we just need to like adjust the stylus, or maybe I noticed that that spring fell out and I can get in there, you can take this back plate off without taking this entire carriage off. I would not suggest doing it unless you were trained, just because of, I won't even attempt tonight for you guys to watch me try and put this back together, because one, I'll probably get the Brailler sweats and I'll start like needing like Carl to fan me off because everybody's watching me. And two, this is probably the most frustrating thing to put back together, because what happens is we get all this shrunk back in, it comes back together, my pins are where they need to be, but now I have 6 separate stylus that I have to somehow fit into my cell. And I have to sit there and, Carl, do you have your paper clip out?
I do somewhere.
We have literally hammered down and ball peened paper clips.
As our own little modified tool.
And I sit there and we get frustrated because we sit there with these 6 pins and we sit there and do this and try and align them as we're putting gradual pressure down to align 6 little tiny pins into 6 little tiny holes with our tiny paper clip. And then once that plate goes down all the way, you just like hold on for dear life and pick up your screws really fast to put those plates on. Because once it happens, especially with these new ones, there's a lot more spring loaded with those tiny springs on top of these stylus. And so when those springs pop, this is about as hard as those little link pins that are at the bottom of all your keys.
Yeah,
and
fine.
so
They're tiny.
I would not suggest loosening everything up in this area. All this stuff can be cleaned, like I was stating before, even these rollers can be cleaned, but to go to this extent, we would really have to feel that either there's a stylus broken, maybe a braille dot is just not there, non-existent. We'll go in, because what also happens from a really heavy use is we pulled plenty out, these styluses do snap. So it will be maybe like a 1/16 of an inch shorter of that length that is missing, that won't go through that stripper plate. And so that dot will not be produced. Or if it was dropped and it's underneath, and then all of a sudden somebody presses a key and that stripper plate is depressed, that stylus is now gonna bend left, right, back, or forward, and not be aligned anymore.
We had questions, I think early on, if I'm saying, hold that up there. So somebody asked, can you use things other than paper in the Braille writer? You can see it's all one, piece of metal. Some of the versions, they do solder them on, but that top can then be worn down if you use something hard other than paper.
Or it was aluminum sheeting.
That's what it was, right? Yeah. I mean, you can do it, but just be mindful of, overuse from that perspective. So, and that's taking the stylus out. So I know. So putting them back in, we would then start from the left and work our way back to the right. So, but we're not going to do that tonight. So any other questions about things you see on the table, tools we haven't mentioned, or time at Perkins training? Anybody interested in learning more about more in-depth portions of the Braille?
Have you all talked about the training that they have at Perkins yet?
I don't think we have.
I don't know if we have.
Maybe real briefly. More in depth now,
Yep.
if people are interested. You end up going to Watertown, and which is where Perkins is located. And you have the option. It's 2 weeks, or it can be 2 weeks. The first week is levels 1 and 2, and then the second week is level 3. And 1 and 2, there's some repairs. 1 and 2 are mostly cleanings, taking really basic assemblies apart. You go through, and then if you stay for that second week, it is another. They charge for 1 week for 1 and 2, and another week for 3. But if you're grouping them together, from, if I remember right, from a couple of years ago, they will give a discount to that, to like, because you're like, I'm going to be there for 2 weeks. But that does also include like room and board. If you have that option, they have limited space. So if like you sign up and you sign up early and say, yes, I want room and board, you
with COVID, I don't know how that's all
right.
working.
And so
I know
last
I've gone twice, and 1 year room and board was not an option. So we had to pay for flight, hotel to stay for 2 weeks, which was really expensive. And then obviously the price of the workshop. And then last year we opted for the hotel, but they did offer stay in some of the dormitories on campus, because it is over the summer, and most of the kids are gone during that session.
And it's just you sit in a room and they teach you and you do it. It's kind of like now. You sit there and you go through, but especially if you want to go up to that level 3, you have to do exactly what Carl has shown tonight with everything, except you're taking all these pieces off of both left and right plates. You're taking this all the way down. You're taking the chain off your front assembly. You're taking your drum spring off. All the keys in the assembly over here to Carl's right, all those keys and everything else would be completely taken off. And so, and then they go, put it back together, and then it has to function.
Yeah.
And so properly, correct. And so you go through, and I mean, you have the slew of parts. They have a parts cart that they roll through. When you find things are broken, they're like, okay, go to the parts cart.
Or you break them.
Or you break them, or lose them.
Yeah.
And they expect you to know how to use the manual. They expect you to carry that knowledge from level 1 and 2 to 3. Because our friend who teaches it, Steve Bishop in Maryland, very smart man, and he taught us and teaches us all those tricks of the trade. And Perkins is great to be able to teach you to know and be confident what to do. It's your experience after that training that really will leap you to that next level, if that's your goal. And so the trainings are great. They're fun.
Yeah. And the other thing too, and I encourage anybody, if you're interested in doing it, to do it. But and they told us when we were there too, as soon as you get back, get your hands on a Brailler and take it down to the screws and put it back together. Because if you don't, like so many things we learn, we forget these things, and it's very important. There's steps and processes and systems, and if we forget those steps, it can cause more headache along the way. So, yeah, I encourage, if it's something you're interested, I can tell you, we've tried and we continue to try having conversations with Perkins, because we realize the hardship of cost and getting out there and flights and time away from family and work and all that stuff too. So we're continually working on ways to maybe offer some other trainings, either through Perkins or in conjunction with other agencies, to maybe break things up, piecemeal some things to make it functional and realistic, because it's, unless you're have the capital to get there and the reasoning to do it and to work on a large fleet or group of Braillers, it can be a kind of a burden to head all the way up there to Perkins. So, and they realize that too. So they're constantly in discussions about other ways to deliver their curriculum and model. So.
Now, we're very grateful that you guys were able to provide this training for our people here. There was one follow-up question back to the conversation about using just paper in a Brailler to make sure you don't wear down those the stylus. But what about sticky back paper?
Sticky back paper.
Sorry. I wouldn't wear it down.
Yeah, I think that's fine. If I see sometimes it'll get rolled up in the roller, So, if you're seeing things, residue sticking back into it, take your alcohol and clean the roller, maybe even rub some alcohol on the stripper plate itself, like depress the keys, making sure none of that stuff got stuck on the pins. Yeah, so any of the thermoform stuff or the stick and peel, yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions in the chat right now.
Okay.
Any other questions maybe regarding tools that we use? Because I know we've gone through a lot of the ones that we personally use, or maybe somebody wants to see anything that maybe is on the screen at the top of anything that doesn't look like it comes in the kit, because we have acquired some. And when I'm at my house and I have all my tool bag, there's I have a whole punch set in there for different things. The hammers are very important. I think one thing that we kind of discovered that Perkins doesn't send is that long shanked,
This guy.
well, it's a long shanked Phillips too.
No, they send it.
Oh, they don't send the long shanked
They don't send the long shaped flathead.
flathead.
And so that's useful for getting into, if you look on the, where'd it go? On the bottom of your Brailler, we talked about when we make the adjustments on the beam, there's an aluminum bushing that goes in there. They give you this little guy, but I kind of like a little leverage. It's just hard to hold on that guy. So go to Ace for a couple bucks or wherever, Home Depot or some hardware store. And you can get the same size flathead.
If you think that because that whole system right there is where you would go to take out your beam, which is the big metal thing at the top that your carriage runs along. I wouldn't suggest taking that out. Again, I'm going to use Carl's. I would send it to a technician.
Yeah, because there's a set screw in there. Just today when I had 15 minutes before we started, and I can you switch to the camera? I'll just show you. I mean, I've taken out thousands of these, and today, I don't know if you can see, but I already chewed up this one. Not bad. It's functional, but there's another one over there too. Forgive me on this one. Yeah. So that set screw was stuck, and you can see I've torn up some of the teeth already. So I'll be lucky if I can get it back in with some cleaning and alcohol. It's just a soft aluminum, and even with lots of experience, this thing can slip and cause it to chewed up pretty good. Tim's showing us one that that go in here. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Sorry if I'm making anybody sick. You can see this one spaced out a little bit more and starting to buckle on one side there as well. So anyway, just even with experience, we all make mistakes and stuff happens. So Tim's gonna destroy one. Hit it with a hammer.
Fill the air.
Oh, Philly, our dead air. Sorry.
Dead air.
So close view here. Yeah, this pretty much everything on the right, aside from the Jenga piece. I'll move that over. Comes in the kit. From the long Phillips head on over, all the different parts and tools. And we have that messed up version.
So when that's with the set screws written to be taken out, or you're really grinding it hard down there because you think you're going to get it, it's very soft aluminum. So like that will just go and you will start to grind out those grooves.
And you can see all the shards are actually on his finger.
Yeah.
And that can get down in these pieces if you don't clean it all out. And then the set screw can mess the teeth, but it'll do that too. It can mess the teeth up pretty good as well. Because you're screwing a perpendicular set screw into the side to hold that to make sure it doesn't loosen. But when you back that out, some of those teeth have been bent a little bit. So.
And if this does loosen, there's the spring underneath it And another adage to how these systems are connected, if this nut loosens, this spring that has been pressured into the beam, which has a nut, we're gonna try to explain this. You look at the computer
Oh,
screen.
sorry about that.
So there's a nut here that this screw goes on and this spring, and then we tighten, tighten, tighten. So if this is loose or broken or looks chewed so that screw won't hold, you're now releasing tension on the beam assembly that turns into braille that's inconsistent or non-existent, because now there's no spring tension on this nut to allow for this entire system to go up and down.
Right. And so even if we, like I said, you can put your adjustment tool in there to make those adjustments down here. But if you notice up here, those posts are threaded into the beam. That too can get loose. So if that happens, you're loosening down here, but you're also literally extending the distance on that post. And we've got to take this whole assembly out and make sure those threads are, the posts are threaded into the beam properly. So.
We do have a question from Brandy. She's wondering, what parts do you always have on hand?
You want to wheel the cart around?
Sure.
Okay. Well, Tim's going to wheel the cart around.
Let me explain our cart.
Well, and actually, we just recently ordered and moved stuff around because we needed to find a way to store things. Shop's a mess. It's making a lot of noise here. I had to move things around and put all this camera equipment in here. I'm sorry. So we found a cheapo thing that, in hindsight, I probably would have gotten something else. You're about to lose a bin there, 55. Anyway, we have a rolling rack, and I can give you a view. You want?
Can they see my camera? That one?
Can they see Tim's camera, Liz?
Liz,
We are currently, we're kind of looking at the table on the big screen with your, yeah. Okay, there. Now we can see your rolling cart.
So we, last year, because, and this is our FSDB parts cart, okay? This is not our Ancient City parts cart.
Oh, yeah, good call. Sorry about that.
I went through and went super in depth for our brailers here at FSDB. And I looked at the repair inventory that Perkins gave us for what they suggest for a level 4 certified person. Okay. Well, we had money and room in our budget to be, you're the worst. Room in our budget to go through and order the parts we needed and what Perkins said we needed. So we went through and from the top of that list down and including parts that wasn't suggested by Perkins and created this massive cart. And so this for us will have every spring, pin, washer, assemblies. So if Carl goes down, maybe not on this side, but I know on this side, we have assemblies. So we have entire assemblies of the clamp and the roller. We have entire spacebar assemblies, rubber rollers, entire key assemblies. And so I would say for yourselves and for the main things you would probably, and be the easiest for you, because when Carl and I were designing this workshop, we were talking about how we don't want to do too many repairs. Carl's fixing the camera.
Oh,
we don't want to do.
Never mind. But I thought I had a view.
No, you're fine. Liz, can you pinpoint me?
I don't think she can while recording. I can do this. Sorry. Keep talking. I'm bad.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know what about.
no problem.
I'll do this.
So we went, so for you, and we, like I'm saying, Carl, for this workshop, we wanted to stick to that cleaning. But if I were to suggest parts that would be easy on repairs that would, you all could do, and I know some of you have actually experienced our repair workshops in person as well. Keys are very easy to replace. They are interchangeable. They, if dropped, or we actually, us as Ancient City received a Brailler a couple weeks ago that all 6 keys were cracked, and we have no clue how it happened. But we contacted them. We're like, we have to replace all 6 keys because there is a very tiny set screw that connects them to the metal portion. And if that is overstressed or banged on, this whole thing will crack and snap off, which I'm sure everybody has seen.
So, I mean, from the perspective of an actual like Brailler too, any one of the keys would probably be a plus. Your screws on the bottom plate, if you guys are examining your Brailler at home as
253.
well, part number 253. You know, if you want to get a little more advanced, I know some of you talked about ordering mainsprings. If you get the basic repair kit,
Any of the plate screws.
any of the plate screws, O-rings, if that's a repair you want to learn, maybe that's something we can come up with a video and put on there to help you with that. It does require, like, you know, a hard table, and a clamp would be nice with some of that stuff. It's just other things that add on to that.
And one thing I would say that you probably, it wouldn't be wasting your money on, but it doesn't affect the function of the Brailler, is the knobs that and the older Braillers that go on your paper release levers. These, we ordered them just because we wanted to keep everything uniform if we can.
Yeah.
But if you have one, especially if those screws are stripped out, you're never going to get that thing off. And Carl and I have sat at a table, one of us holding a glove on one hand, holding a wrench, while the other one is using a flathead screwdriver and a hammer to get it off a lever.
Yeah.
So if these are off and you notice, like, oh, there's a hole in that lever where that's supposed to be, it doesn't really affect the function. So this wouldn't be a part you necessarily need unless you're trying to make everything look pretty. Other parts, as I look at the cart.
Here, we'll just bring them on the table. Clarity's better.
I think that's really it. I know it seems like it's that we didn't give you much answer there, especially when you see me wheel a two-sided cart over. But maybe the little washer that is under the carriage lever screw.
Oh yeah,
That
the
little
split.
pressure washer can, if it wears out and doesn't create that pressure, that's when your carriage lever could get loose and maybe not hold that tension.
So carriage lever I would loop into the keys would be another one to have, as well as the set screw and the washer, split washer he was talking about, because this connection can wear out. It is plastic and metal, and so the plastic usually fails first. So they do sell the lever by itself as well. So feet, rubber feet on the bottom. They tend to get lost or knocked off on an edge of a table, or on older Braillers like this guy. These will have to be replaced soon. They're pretty hard and stiff. Now, I will say one caveat. I think they sell, I don't know if they've gone to one now, but on the older Braillers, there isn't a through hole to stick in there. And so when you buy a new, I don't know if you guys can see that, a new foot, it's got a nipple on there. Well, if you don't have a through hole on there and you need a foot, you can take an X-Acto knife and cut off the projection point there, the nipple, and then put some adhesive. They make a, so I don't even know this hammer. It's like a industrial. I don't have it on hand. Ours, we finished ours. Yeah, it's like a rubber cement almost, industrial rubber cement that you put on there and stick up there. So, but normally it's just a fitting that you push up in there. It can be tricky to get that in, but so I'm sorry we haven't a lot. There's, you know, we're to the point where we're taking the Braillers down to the screws and we need all those little parts. As you progress and go through, you start to add more parts in there. So initial cleaning would be paper guide as well. Sometimes you'll see those broken. Your keys, your lever, the screw and split washer for the lever, as well as knobs on the sides, and those are taken off with an Allen wrench set screw, which I think we showed you guys earlier. So, and those come with the set screw inside as well. So, is that helpful?
I think so, yes. Great, thank you, Brandy says. So Yeah, that was super informative, and we have some comments in the chat. Just thanks for helping us, and great series. Love getting their hands dirty. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. It's been so interesting, and even everything else I've seen in emails, people are so grateful, and they've really appreciated this entire series. So I'm glad
Well, we enjoyed being able to speak with y'all and get insight. Please communicate through FIMC any additional trainings you want to see, and we can help coordinate that if they'll still have us. And I think
yes, of course. It's not a
And I don't think we have yet, but I will shameless plug now. Ancient City Brailler Repair on Facebook. Look at us, like us, check us out. Our email is ancientcitybraille@gmail.com. Please send us emails there. Look us up for any questions, maybe repairs that you need be, and we can figure that out. I do know that we have, as we are a more new company, we are only recently now like contracting with different school districts and different individuals.
Yeah.
And so, and we do all those, and we go through the whole process, and we recognize a need, and we want to make sure that we are able to service these machines and really get them to the people that need them. And so it's not really fair if they're stuck at home and they don't have a machine.
Right.
And so that was kind of how we started this out of necessity. And so shameless plug, check us out on Facebook. You can Google us and we pop up. We do have, and there's a phone number on there as well. And so if you need to contact us that way, we are available. We do work during the day. So if we don't get back to you during the day, it'll normally be after our normal work day, but you will always get a call back from us.
Absolutely.
All right, and I put your email address in the chat box for people to grab. And so if all of you could fill out our brief evaluation for this series that we had, I know we're going to get some excellent feedback. So just click on that link and that will take you to the unique evaluation for this series. So I will let you all get that. And as you're doing that, I will give you the closing code if you're looking for in-service credit or ACD or AP credit. The closing code is machine. Machine. Yeah. Okay, so if you are looking for that credit, you are going to need to fill out a different form. I'm going to put that link in the chat box as well. You're going to put those codes, that opening code and the closing code in here. Make sure you put your correct email address in there and wherever the certificate is for your district or your agency, and the certificate will be emailed to you. If you don't get it within a day, contact us because something went wrong on the back end. Okay. All right. So I think that is it. You guys we have the evaluation. We might even email that link out as well, just to make sure everyone has a chance to get that. So if there isn't anything else, all right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, Tim and Carl, for your expertise. You should have a show. You could be famous.
We choose not to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, we will definitely be doing more of this type of thing in the future for sure. So let us know what you want to learn more about. But that is it, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday next week. Get some rest, some R&R, get some time with your loved ones, whatever that brings you. All right. Okay, thank you guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.